Tuesday to you. My name is Haley, and it is time for the Wisconsin Live Desk. I'll be taking care of the first hour of the Wisconsin Live Desk today here on Fox Local, and then our very own Kim Murphy will be doing the second hour of the Wisconsin Live Desk. If you've never tuned in before and this is your first time, we never really know what's going to happen. We monitor these things behind me called feeds, and we bring you really the latest news both here across Milwaukee area, Wisconsin, the country, and sometimes even internationally. We're going to start, though, in Milwaukee, taking a live look outside. This is from our downtown camera, where you can see it is truly just a beautiful Tuesday for you. I know we were experiencing a lot of those fall temperatures last week, but this week we're kind of having what we call layer weather, where in the morning it does feel like fall. You do need a light coat or a sweatshirt or something as you head out the door, but then in the afternoons, we've been getting treated to 70s. You can see right there, 71 degrees outside right now. And it's just expected to be some more of this really nice weather leading into the weekends. I think there's a potential for 80s even. Our weather experts have said this is really a forecast you want to get outside, savor up, and enjoy. So yeah, we've got just a lot going on here in Milwaukee. We also are monitoring some stories out of D.C. A big story actually today, Israel launching a strike targeting Hamas leadership in Qatar. We did just kind of learn that U.S. had some heads-up knowledge to this, but that they were not involved in this attack whatsoever. It does come as some of those ceasefire talks continue. They've certainly been stalled recently, and they continue to have Trump trying to intervene to end this Israel-Hamas war. A lot of talk about how there needs to be a ceasefire, but again, they had that airstrike. Also happening right now in D.C., a press briefing. Our very own Caroline Levitt just actually took to the podium a few minutes ago. We can listen in briefly, and then we're going to head back locally. We have a few more stories going on as well in Milwaukee, but we'll listen to Caroline for just a couple of minutes here.
Use every single day to go to school and work. Irina was on the train that night traveling home from her job at a pizzeria, still in uniform from her shift. This beautiful, innocent 23-year-old young woman was a Ukrainian refugee who had recently fled her country for a chance at a safer life and a promising new beginning here in the United States of America. But tragically, a public transportation system in a major American city was more dangerous than the active war zone that she left. The president and the entire White House are praying for her family and friends during this unimaginably difficult time. But while we extend our thoughts and prayers, we must also seek justice for this crime and call attention to this heinous incident. Surveillance video of the killing was finally released to the public this past Friday. It shows the alleged killer, DeCarlos Brown Jr., pull out a knife, get up from his seat behind Irina, and prepare to thrust a blade into her neck before the released footage gets cut. This is pure evil on full display. The most enraging and unacceptable part of this story is that her death was entirely preventable. DeCarlos Brown never should have been on that train that night. In fact, he should have been behind bars. DeCarlos Brown has been charged with crimes no fewer than 14 times, dating back to 2011, including for armed robbery, felony larceny, breaking and entering, and shoplifting. Brown had previously served 5 years in prison for a robbery with a deadly weapon charge, and he had also forfeited bonds 3 different times, twice in 2014 and once in 2023. Despite all of this past documented criminal history, when Brown was arrested yet again in January of this past year, a Democrat judge, who I will add was a strong supporter of former Vice President Kamala Harris, released this insane criminal once again without requiring him to pay any bail. He simply had to sign a written promise to return for his court hearing. Think about how crazy it is to ask a career criminal, someone who by definition repeatedly breaks the law, to just sign a written promise and come back again another day. This is madness. This monster.
If you're just joining us, we've been listening in to the White House press briefing. Caroline Levitt right here talking about the murder of a Ukrainian refugee who was in Charlotte, North Carolina, riding the train home after a work shift and was stabbed and killed in the neck there, kind of expressing her sorrow for the family and for that life loss, as well as talking a little bit about the man accused of doing that. Certainly a big talker, and we'll continue to monitor this White House press briefing, and we will circle back to it if it's still happening in a few minutes. But we want to get to a local story happening here out of the Milwaukee area, where Marquette University continues to mourn the loss of two lacrosse players who were killed in a car accident on Friday. It's the story that our very own Christina Van Zelst is on today. And Christina, I know you are near those lacrosse fields at Marquette University right now. What's the latest on this story?
Hey, Haley, I think the biggest thing we're waiting for this week is formal charges to be filed in this crash. To take you back for people who have been following this, we know this crash happened last Friday near 27th and St. Paul, which is just about a half a mile up from where we're standing right now. And as you mentioned, those two Marquette lacrosse players, Noah and Scott, died in that crash. When it comes to those formal charges, we know that a 41-year-old woman was arrested on the scene there at the crash scene, and she had possible charges of potential homicide with intoxicated use of a motor vehicle. Some new updates we got holding a search warrant here from court filings that actually list some of these specific sobriety tests that investigators say she failed at the scene. Again, we're not naming this woman because she has not been formally charged, but some of the things listed in here say, according to investigators, that she had slurred speech, bloodshot and glassy eyes. It also says that she admitted to drinking 2 steel reserves before the time of that crash. The search warrant also mentions a 2003 OWI. So some new information we got just from these search warrants. Again, I think people are really awaiting those formal charges just to get more insight as to what happened before the crash, and of course have talked to people waiting for some accountability to be had when it comes to the loss of the lives of those two lacrosse players.
Yeah, just an absolute tragedy unfolding Friday as we learned about this accident and the lives lost. Talking there about the 41-year-old woman who's arrested, failing those sobriety tests, and of course we'll continue to follow this story, and if any formal charges are made, of course we'll bring that to everybody here on Wisconsin Live Desk and Fox Local. Christina, I'm curious, what have we learned about these two men who lost their lives in this accident? We've heard, I know, from their coaches who just said they were the best of the best, really.
Yeah, and I think one thing we keep hearing is that they just had so much more to give. We know that they were on the Marquette lacrosse team, and there has been a lot of support throughout campus, even people who didn't know the two men who were killed, talking about just how devastating this has been and really leaving such a somber feeling on campus. And we talked with some of the coaches over the weekend, their previous coaches. They mentioned how some of them had offers from other schools, but really felt the connection here at Marquette, and that is why they chose to go to this school. So just a devastating loss. And if you want to listen to both of the coaches, because one of them is from Ohio, the other from New York, we do have those interviews posted on the Fox Local app. They go in depth about what these kids meant both on and off the field, and really powerful stuff there. But yeah, definitely the mood at Marquette from students says it is just a heavy feeling. And of course, as we're still waiting for these charges to come down, I think hopefully that could bring at least some clarity as to what happened, or maybe some closure and ways people can move forward once those are filed.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still a lot of information to learn when it comes to this case. You mentioned a call for accountability. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, Christina?
Yeah, so yesterday I actually talked with a man who said the similarities to this case are jarring to him. He actually had his father and stepmom killed at that same intersection, 27th and St. Paul, 13 years ago at the hands of a drunk driver. So as he was watching this, it's bringing up a lot of emotions for him. His name is Edwin Thaves. We covered that incident back in 2012, 2013. And he said that he wishes first-time offenders, if they're driving drunk or under the influence, should get more than a traffic ticket. He said whether that's jail time or a revoked license, just harsher penalties for people driving under the influence for that first-time offense, he thinks could be something that would maybe deter people from getting behind the wheel after drinking. So that's one of the things he mentioned when we talked to him. This is obviously something that feels personal to him. He also went to Marquette. So that were some of his ideas. Of course, reckless driving has been something we talked about. We've been covering for years here in Milwaukee in efforts to curb that, but he says things like speed bumps and bump outs just aren't cutting it. It's more of holding people accountable for their actions before getting behind the wheel.
Absolutely. We know there were also 2 other Marquette students who were hurt in this crash. Do we have any update on them and how they're doing?
Yeah, so there were actually 4 other people in the car that was hit, and this search warrant actually says the 2 who unfortunately passed away were passengers in that car. 4 other people were in that vehicle, and they have since been released from the hospital. We learned that over the weekend. So those people are recovering, and it appears that they will be physically at least recovering from any injuries they suffered, but are since released from the hospital as of Sunday.
Obviously, this is a big story and one that we will stay on top of as we wait for the potential of those formal charges and some new information. But we thank you for joining us on the Wisconsin Live Desk, Christina.
Yeah, thanks, Haley, and we'll of course keep you posted if those charges come down today.
We appreciate it. Thank you. That's our very own Christina Van Zels giving us the latest in just a tragic situation that unfolded Friday afternoon with the lives lost of 2 Marquette lacrosse players in that crash. Again, no formal charges yet for that 41-year-old woman who was arrested at the scene for possible homicide by intoxicated use of a motor vehicle, but it is something that we are monitoring. We're also monitoring, of course, the press briefing happening right now at the White House. When we left off, Caroline Leavitt was talking about the criminal involved in the tragic loss of a Ukrainian refugee who was stabbed in the neck and killed on a North Carolina train. So we are going to monitor this, listen back in, and see the latest out of this press briefing.
Or how much of a heads up did the U.S. get, and does the president support the strike?
Sure. Well, I have a statement to read for all of you with respect to the Israeli strike in Doha, and here it is. This morning, the Trump administration was notified by the United States military that as Israel was attacking Hamas, which very unfortunately was located in a section of Doha, the capital of Qatar. Unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals. However, eliminating Hamas, who have profited off the misery of those living in Gaza, is a worthy goal. President Trump immediately directed Special Envoy Witkoff to inform the Qataris of the impending attack, which he did. The president views Qatar as a strong ally and friend of the United States and feels very badly about the location of this attack. President Trump wants all of the hostages in Gaza and the bodies of the dead released, and this war to end now. President Trump also spoke to Prime Minister Netanyahu after the attack. The Prime Minister told President Trump that he wants to make peace, and quickly. President Trump believes this unfortunate incident could serve as an opportunity for peace. The president also spoke to the Emir and Prime Minister of Qatar and thanked them for their support and friendship to our country. He assured them that such a thing will not happen again on their soil.
And to be clear, the president disagrees with the location of the strike and that he passed that along to Prime Minister Netanyahu.
The president just confirmed that in the statement that I just read to you, which I spoke with him about before coming out here.
Caroline,
Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. So is the president upset with Netanyahu now?
The president made his thoughts and concerns about this very clear, and he spoke again both to Prime Minister Netanyahu and also the Emir and the Prime Minister of Qatar after this attack. And the president has always made it very clear that he wants peace in the Middle East, just like he sought that and accomplished that in his first term. He expects all of our allies and friends in the region, that includes both Qatar and Israel, to seek peace as well. And he wants to see that happen, and he's working with all of our allies in the region to get that done.
Are there any consequences, so to speak, for Netanyahu doing this, as it sounds, against the president's wishes, or at least his belief that it was appropriate? Is there going to be any directive from the president to Netanyahu in terms of what's allowed in the future? And also, is there any concern this could jeopardize the Abraham Accords?
Look, that's a decision only the president can make. With respect to your first question, to answer your second question, as you heard from the president, he said he believes that this can serve as an opportunity for peace, and he's still actively and aggressively pursuing it with all of our allies and partners in the region. Jennifer?
Just to follow up on that, Caroline, are you able to say how often the president spoke to the Prime Minister of Israel before this? Because he That's one question. And then what did he mean on Sunday when he posted, "I've given my last warning to Hamas, etc." He wasn't talking about this strike on Doha?
No, he was not. As I told you, the Trump administration was notified by the United States military that Israel was attacking Hamas, and the president spoke to the prime minister after the attack, as well as, again, the emir and the prime minister of Qatar. And I know Secretary Rubio and Special Envoy Witkoff were present for that call with the Qataris as well. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. I have two questions for you on crime crackdown.
Sure.
Democrats have tried to argue that red states have higher crime rates while overlooking problems of high crime in blue cities. I'm wondering if the president would consider working with red state governors to fix high crime in blue cities like in Memphis, Tennessee.
So first of all, I want to get to the premise of your question, Reagan, which is being pushed by Democrats, that there is crime in red states. Of course, there is crime in all states, but the crime in these cities is all in cities that are run by Democrats. If you look at the list of the top 20 high crime cities in the United States, every single one, with the exception of one in Louisiana, is run by a Democrat. And these Democrats have supported the same policies that I spoke about at the beginning of this briefing, like cashless bail. If you look at a red state, Mississippi, but a Democrat-run city in that state, Jackson, in 2019, Jackson, Mississippi eliminated cash bail for virtually all misdemeanor cases. And while Jackson is not formally a sanctuary city, the state of Mississippi formally banned sanctuary cities, and this city has acted as a de facto sanctuary city for criminals and illegal aliens since 2017. Same thing, Birmingham, Alabama, a Democrat-run city in a red state. In 2017, the Birmingham City Council unanimously passed a resolution, quote, committing to establish sanctuary policies. So if you actually look at the facts from these Democrat-run cities, these are cities that are run by Democrats and by by members of the Democrat Party. These are blue cities, and they have all supported these disastrous policies which allow repeated career criminals back onto the streets to further commit acts of violence. And so to answer your question, yes, the president wants to work with anyone across this country who wants to end these horrible policies and to bring law and order to our streets. And I think that is proven by his tremendous cooperation with the mayor of Washington, D.C. and our nation's capital. And just look at the results of that. And I do have some updates for you on the D.C. crime crackdown if anyone is interested. There have been a total of 2,177 arrests made since the start of the operation on August 7th. Just last night, there were 57 arrests made in Washington, D.C. Of the 57 arrests, there were 14 illegal aliens who were arrested, many of whom had prior criminal histories. And other arrests just last night in our nation's capital, so you all can be very grateful for this. Our great men and women of law enforcement, both federal and local, working together as they should, made an arrest on a warrant for assault with the intent to kill. The subject shot 2 adult males after an altercation. They made an arrest on a warrant for an armed carjacking. The subject assaulted an adult male in the face with a firearm and then took his keys. We also made an arrest on a warrant for simple assault and the destruction of property and subsequently charged with second-degree theft. Last night in D.C., there was an arrest for possession of a controlled substance with second-degree theft. There was an arrest for possession of a controlled substance with the intent to distribute. That subject, the person is also a subject of interest in a homicide and a carjacking. Last night in D.C., we also arrested a felon in possession of a firearm who was carrying that firearm without a license. So these are the career criminals. These are the bad guys that we are picking up in Washington, D.C. every day. The president would love to do this in every Democrat-run city across the country, and he hopes that more Democrats will call the White House to allow us to help them.
One more that's D.C. specific. Congress is poised to not extend Trump's federalization of the D.C. police. Mayor Bowser signed the executive order formalizing cooperation with federal forces. You just mentioned all the success that the operation has had. Does the White House believe that the Mayor Bowser's action is enough to continue the crime crackdown?
We are very grateful for the mayor's cooperation in this effort, and we look forward to continuing to work with her and the Metropolitan Police Department. Bloomberg.
Thanks, Caroline. The president says, he plans to speak with Putin soon. Can we expect a phone call between the two leaders this week?
I don't have any phone calls to read out between you, the president, and any other foreign leaders. Ed.
Thanks, Carolyn. I want to ask about the benchmark revisions that came out. If you look at the revisions between March of 2024 and March of 2025, and you do a little math, it averages out to 73,000 jobs roughly per month added to the economy, less than what was thought. When can we expect the Trump administration, now that their policies are rolling out, for that increase, that average to increase?
Well, let me just say something about the revisions that came out this morning. And this was one of the biggest revisions in absolute terms in decades. And the benchmark year, March 2024 to 2025, shows that the job growth was vastly weaker during the Biden administration than ever previously reported. Between this revision and last year's, job growth was actually overstated by approximately 2 million jobs. And the Biden administration stood up here and vouched for that data and told you that data was real. And when President Trump calls into question the veracity of that data, like he did before he took the oath of office and even now as President of the United States, he was ridiculed for that. And turns out this revision proves two things. Number one, the president was right. And this is why we need new leadership at the Fed. And this makes it very clear that President Trump inherited a much worse economy by the Biden administration than ever reported. And it also proves that the Federal Reserve is holding our monetary policy far too restrictive. Interest rates are too high. The Fed needs to cut the rates because of the mess that we inherited from the Biden administration.
Time frame. The president has said a year. Secretary Besson said maybe the fourth quarter. When can we expect these numbers to increase?
Well, first, we need accurate numbers. We need truthful and honest data, which is why the president took the monumental step to try and appoint and confirm new leadership at the BLS so we can have data that we can actually rely on. And that's what the president has been is doing, and we hope that his nominee will soon be confirmed. Charlie.
You addressed the crime of Irina Zurika, and the president has done a lot to deliver justice for victims of crimes like that horrific stabbing. And the Epstein files are back in the news because a lot of Americans feel that that Jeffrey Epstein's victims never got justice. Does the president care about these victims? Do you think he can does he want to deliver more justice for them, and is he willing to meet with them?
The president cares about victims of all crimes, and that's why Republicans in the Trump Department of Justice have done more in terms of transparency when it comes to the Epstein case than any prior administration. And why are the Democrats all of a sudden caring about this? It's because they are desperately trying to concoct a hoax to smear the President of the United States. We have seen this time and time again. Ro Khanna and all of these other Democrats, they could have cared about those victims 4 years ago when Joe Biden was in office. They could have pushed for transparency then. Unfortunately, the Democrats are using victims as political pawns to try to smear and to push a hoax against the President of the United States. And I will get you numbers on the amount of child predators that this administration and this FBI and this Department of Justice have locked up under President Trump's leadership. We have done more than any president to protect victims of crime, especially disgusting, heinous sexual crimes. And that includes the deportation of illegal aliens who are perpetrating these crimes against innocent victims in our country right now today. And that remains a top priority for this administration.
Does the president
If you are just joining us, we have been listening in to the White House press briefing this Tuesday afternoon, hearing there from Caroline Leavitt touching on a myriad of topics. Most recently, that was a question about Jeffrey Epstein in that case. We also heard her talk about the D.C. crime crackdown a little bit earlier ago. Really kind of she was blaming Democratic leaders, saying that in 19 of the top 20 most dangerous crime-filled cities, it's Democratic leaders, and talking more about that issue, showing some proof and some numbers as to what the National Guard has done while they've kind of taken over D.C. Obviously, all eyes are really on Chicago, as that's the next spot that Trump has said he plans to go into to make a safer city, to crack down on crime, potentially bring in the National Guard as well. We also heard her talking a little bit more about the airstrikes that happened today in Qatar. Again, Israel had launched those strikes into Qatar, where some Hamas leaders were going to be. Obviously, Qatar is actually a pretty good relationship with the U.S., so they were getting her thoughts on behalf of President Trump, but what he said about that attack, saying that he really wished it had been at a different place. He didn't love that it happened in Doha. What we have learned is that Hamas says that its top leaders survived the Israeli strike on Qatar and that 5 lower-ranking members died. We learned that a Qatari security personnel was killed. That came from a statement by Hamas. The AP is noting that sometimes Hamas won't say or confirm the assassination of its leaders until months go on, so they have not provided any immediate proof that its top leaders have survived that airstrike by Israel. But of course, they have said that they did. That was a pretty big story coming out this morning internationally, so it's something that we'll keep monitoring, the AP headlines, as well as what comes across here on Fox 6, and we'll let you know on the Wisconsin Live Desk. But we are going to just take a quick break, and then we're going to talk sports, because we're just 2 days away until the Packers take to the field again and hope to go to that 2-0 start on the season. So we will get you all caught up, get you everything you need to know as far as Packers and Brewers go on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, welcome back into the Wisconsin Live Desk this Tuesday afternoon. We are inching closer to 1 p.m., just a few minutes away from the new hour. I'm Haley. I'll be with you for about the next 30 minutes until our very own Kim Murphy takes over, and hopefully there's a lot of stuff popping up on the feeds that she will take you to. If you have never tuned into the Wisconsin Live Desk before, we monitor these feeds behind me and we bring you news live as it happens, whether that be here in Wisconsin, across the country, across even the world. As those headlines pop up and those news develop, we bring it to you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and we also get you ready for the NFL. Of course, taking a live look right now in Green Bay at Lambeau, where the Green Bay Packers are getting ready to take on the Washington Commanders. That's coming up in just 2 days. They are the Thursday night football game. Of course, a lot of Packers fans just thrilled at the start of the season. They've already taken down the Detroit Lions. They had a great first outing for Micah Parsons, their new edge rusher, now in the green and the gold and wearing number 1 on the field. He had a great game. They had a great game taking down the Detroit Lions. And now, they get ready to take on the Washington Commanders, which always makes me laugh because they, for many seasons, were just the Washington football team as they underwent their name change. And I think that they took it to a vote, and that was one of the options. And I honestly would have probably voted for the Washington football team because it's just so funny to me to just not really be creative with your name, but to call it what it is. But they went with the Commanders. And if you're like, hey, I can't make it out to Lambeau to see that game on Thursday, we've got you covered. Thursday night football. You can watch the game right here on Fox 6. We'll be bringing you live coverage starting at 7 p.m. We also have a special edition of Fox 6 News before the game. So we will get you ready, Packers fans, as they take on the Washington Commanders on Thursday night. I always love that Thursday night football game because it just kind of reminds you really quickly, like, it's still football season. We don't even have to go a whole week until you see your Packers again. They'll be on Thursday. If you have not joined us on the Wisconsin Live Desk before, this year, for the very first time in a fantasy football league, I usually just do picks, which I did pick the Packers to win on Sunday. You know what? Now that I live in Milwaukee, I'll pick them again on Thursday. That's what I usually do. But this year we did a fantasy football league, which I'm really learning how to do fantasy. I don't have a ton of knowledge, and I have bad news to report. I lost my first week. My quarterback is Joe Burrow, who just didn't give me a ton of points this week. I also have Caleb Williams, the Bears quarterback, who I sat on the bench, and he earned way more points than Joe Burrow. So that was the kind of first painful experience of, like, you never know which one to play. It also doesn't help that the girl that I was playing had the Chargers quarterback, who had, like, an incredible game last Friday in Brazil, taking down Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs pretty badly in Brazil. So not the best start for Haley on my fantasy football league, but an excellent start for the Packers. But I don't have a ton of football knowledge, you guys, because I am a much bigger baseball fan, and I know so many of you guys are members of the Brew Crew, really hoping that the Milwaukee Brewers can get their 90th win of the season tonight. They weren't able to do it yesterday, but that just means that we have the chance to watch it tonight. Where you're not going to see it is AmFam. We're taking on a live look right now. You see the roof is open because it is 72 degrees in the Milwaukee area. It is a beautiful day out there. But no, the Brewers are taking on the Rangers in Arlington. They are in Texas right now. But again, good news for you guys. You can watch the game right here on Fox 6. It is, of course, your Tuesday Brew Crew coverage here on Fox 6. That game 6:30. Here's your full lineup. So we will have Fox 6 News at 6 p.m. Then we'll have your pregame starting at 6:30. That game getting underway around 7. And then after the game, you can catch a special edition of Fox 6 News. And after the news, you can catch the 1% Club. But hopefully the Brewers take down the Texas Rangers and claim that 90th victory for the season, which is impressive. They play a lot of games, and you're destined to lose a lot of games. So getting to 90 is something to certainly be proud of. And if you know somebody who's going to the game down in Arlington, let's take a look at their forecast there. We got our Brewers forecast for Globe Life Field. Again, that's Arlington, Texas. That's where they'll be playing today. They're not here in Milwaukee. And hopefully they're still good with the heat, because my goodness, in Texas, it certainly still feels like summer. You got 86 degrees there. Mostly sunny, very warm. I do believe that Globe Life Field is another stadium that has a roof, so I guess that if it got drastically different, the game would still be played, and hopefully a roof maybe can help with, like, cranking up the AC and keeping it a little cold for those players. Let's check in with our Brewers fan, because spoiler alert, you guys, I am a Cubs fan, but I don't talk about it a ton on the Wisconsin Live Desk because I recognize that I'm in Brewers territory. But Delaney, our producer, she's a Brewers fan. Delaney, do you think they're going to get the victory tonight to make it to 90?
I hope so. I think they will.
I need you to have, like, a little bit more confidence in your team, Delaney. I need a strong, yes, they've got this.
Yeah, I think they have it.
Delaney loves...
I don't want to be too confident.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's a good point. Delaney loves when I bring her in to talk about baseball. She just, nothing brings a smile more to her face. The good news, if you are a Brewers fan, they are really increasing their lead on the Cubs for the National League Central Division. The Brewers are now up 7.5 games. Obviously, we are in September, so the season is really winding down, and that is a pretty substantial lead to have. I think you've probably clinched the division. Again, never say never. Things can always change. But I think the Cubs are probably going just for the wild card at this rate. But yeah, I mean, what an exciting time to be just a sports fan here in Wisconsin, or really anywhere, now that you've got NFL, you still got your MLB. Pretty soon, I'm sure we'll be talking about the NBA and the Milwaukee Bucks pretty soon. That is going to do it for our sports headlines. Let me know if you need me to break down more of my fantasy football league. I'm happy to, even though I'm a little bitter about last week, but I'll keep you guys updated each week, and hopefully I win, because the winner gets like $350. Delaney, if I win my fantasy football league, what should I do with the money?
Ooh, I don't know. I'd go shopping.
Shopping?
For sure.
Oh, I should go shopping for a new dress. You guys, this is really what the good news about Wisconsin Live Desk is. I can bring you breaking news. I learned just recently, like 10 minutes ago, my dress has pockets. Is there anything better than a dress that has pockets? Delaney and I were saying, I just feel like as a woman, you know, you're constantly like needing to put things places, and your dresses just like don't have pockets. So when they do, brings a smile to my face, as does the weather, because it really is beautiful outside. We'll take a live look at AmFam because you can see kind of the blue skies there. Let me get also our downtown camera, or that is the downtown camera. Let's get our city center camera. Oh, this one's also, yeah, just beautiful. That blue sky right there. You can see there's a slight breeze. That American flag is certainly flying there. Oh, we got a bird that was just saying hello to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Yeah, it's out and about. It's flying around. We should be out and about today. It is beautiful. I was listening to Stephanie, our weather expert, during the 11 a.m. hour of news, and she was telling us there are some showers that are going to kind of be in the area tomorrow morning. It sounds like you might experience a rain shower or two on your commute, but certainly right now, weather is not an issue for today. So yeah, get outside, soak up the sun, soak up the warmer temperatures, because as you guys know, here in Wisconsin, the winter is coming, and it will last for what feels like a very long time. So before we enter into that season, let's enjoy this kind of second dose of summer, and then we'll get some beautiful fall. Well, we are still certainly monitoring several things going on. I do see a few things that have popped up here on the feed, so we're going to look into what's happening again across really the country, across Wisconsin, and we'll bring you some more headlines coming up in just 2 minutes. But for now, we'll take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back into the Wisconsin Live Desk. It is Tuesday afternoon, 1:08, which means I got about 20 minutes left with you until Kim Murphy takes over, because we've got you covered with your live news happening locally, across the country, even the world sometimes, until 2:30. That's right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Well, before we headed to break, we saw something new pop up on the feeds. We do not have a ton of information on this. What we know is this is out of California, where on the 405 there was a freeway crash. We're obviously taking a look from the sky at what appears to be a parking lot. You can see police still on scene there. You can certainly see the damage, I think, to one car, as well as looks like they're focusing in right now. Sorry, as I lean in on camera with you guys on some potential. Oh, that's just me leaning in now. I have been really good about not punching the wrong things, but there you go. Looks like some shoes were on the ground there next to that orange vehicle. And yeah, I mean, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 regular cars in the parking lot. Then there's other police cars nearby as well. So we'll work to get some more information on what exactly has happened here. But again, what we know, this is again out of California, where there on the 405 there was a freeway crash. We're certainly not looking at the freeway here. We're looking at a parking lot, and there does seem to be some interesting items kind of spread around the ground here. So we will continue to monitor this and see what new information we can find, and we'll bring it to you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We've also been spending some time today in D.C. listening to the White House press briefing. This is, of course, Caroline Leavitt. She had talked about a lot of things, from the attack in Qatar today to the crime crackdown to the Charlotte murder of a Ukrainian refugee on the train. So we are going to listen in just for another minute or two here on this White House press briefing, and then we're going to take you back to some news coming out of Milwaukee.
In the United States of America, and he understands that these companies want to bring their highly skilled and trained workers with them, especially when they're creating very niche products like chips, or in this case in Georgia, like batteries. But the president also expects these foreign companies to hire American workers, and for these foreign workers and American workers to work together to train and to teach one another. And so he expects these foreign companies to hire American labor. We want Americans to have these jobs. Americans need these jobs, but he also understands the need for these companies to bring over their workers who already have these skills. So I think it's a very,
what those changes might be?
I think it's a very nuanced and responsible and sensible approach for the president to take. And I know that the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Commerce are working on this matter together. I would defer you to them for any further action on this front.
Caroline, thank you. Just I want to follow up on something you said. You said the Epstein documents are a hoax that Democrats are perpetrating against the president. You said he didn't sign that check, that he didn't sign the birthday card that he allegedly signed. So what is the theory, since these documents came from the Epstein estate? Who is I guess in your view, faking these documents?
I did not say the documents are a hoax. I said the entire narrative surrounding Jeffrey Epstein right now that is absorbing many of the liberal cable channels on television is a hoax that is being perpetuated by opportunistic Democrats like Ro Khanna and the others whom you saw on that press conference outside of Capitol Hill, who are trying to push this hoax against the President of the United States.
What exactly is the hoax? I'm just trying to understand what's fake. What's fake is not the documents.
The hoax is the
All right, we were listening again to the press briefing at the White House. It's been going on for about 40-ish minutes now. Again, Caroline Leavitt touching on a myriad of topics, from the Israeli airstrike in Qatar today to the latest on the Epstein case to the crime crackdown here in the U.S. We'll continue to monitor this. I think it will probably wrap up here shortly, so I don't know if we'll go back to it, but we'll certainly bring you any of the big developments and updates out of that White House briefing here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. What I want to get us over to a story happening right out of Milwaukee. Really, the race to be the next governor of Wisconsin heating up. We have a new candidate officially throwing his hat into the ring. Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley officially joining the race this morning. Our very own political reporter Jason Calvi, you actually just got to speak with him one-on-one. So what's the latest he has to say about his bid for governor?
Yeah, we just wrapped up talking with County Executive David Crowley. He is now officially launching his bid to be governor of Wisconsin. This is 2026, this crucial battleground state that often is 50-50 on presidential and Senate and governor's races. So this is going to be a must win race for both parties because there's going to be so much on the line. They're expecting in 2026 that Democrats have a shot potentially of picking up the legislature, so they're trying to flip the Assembly and the State Senate, which right now are held by Republicans. So right now we have divided government. We have Democratic Governor Tony Evers, who's not running for re-election, and he's been sparring for years with the Republican-controlled legislature. And they've had to really compromise on a lot of things, including budgets, where the budgets have pumped money into both vouchers, which have often been supported by Republicans in Madison, and a lot more funding for public schools, which has been a rallying point for Democrats. So you've seen a lot of compromise, but there's been a lot of things that they haven't been able to agree on when it comes to those controversial issues, such as, let's just name them, let's go through the list. Abortion, marijuana. Wisconsin's one of the few states in our area that doesn't have medical marijuana or recreational marijuana, and so you're going to see that become an issue that would divide Republicans and Democrats. And there's been pushes in the past to potentially have medical marijuana in Wisconsin, but nothing's ever made it through the legislature. The Governor Tony Evers, the Democrat who's not running for re-election in 2026, has again and again introduced that through his budget, which was then taken out by Republicans. So there's just a lot of issues on the line. For all those issues that you think about, those big controversies, there's a lot on the line for Wisconsin as the possibility Democrats could flip. They're hopeful that they can flip the Assembly and the Senate. Republicans are hopeful that they're going to maintain control. But we're under new legislative maps because of the Wisconsin Supreme Court. It flipped to progressive control, liberal control, and they ruled against the Republican-drawn legislative maps. And so then Republicans ended up passing Governor Tony Evers' drawn maps, and that took away the strong majority for Republicans, where you once had a supermajority in the state Senate. You were very close. They were 2 seats away from a supermajority in the Assembly. And that was years ago. That was two years ago. And now this most recent map that they passed, because the Wisconsin Supreme Court struck down the Republican-drawn maps, is still giving Republicans a lead here at the state capitol, but it's much smaller than it ever was in the previous decade. So Democrats are looking to potentially flip that legislature, and with it so many other issues that they hope to bring forward in Wisconsin, and Republicans are really hoping to hang on. They've got a couple people running for governor in 2026. They've got Bill Berrien, who's a former Navy SEAL and a businessman, and then there's Washington County Executive Josh Showman on the Republican side. And now on the Democratic side, you've got Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez, who's from the Waukesha County area, representing, she was a state representative in Brookfield, and she's now running for governor of Wisconsin because Governor Evers is not running for re-election. And you also have now David Crowley, the Milwaukee County Executive, running, officially launching his campaign today. We spoke with him a few moments ago about many, many pressing issues today.
Yeah, I'm appreciative of you there kind of breaking down the 4 candidates that we do have for this race, Jason, because as you mentioned, Wisconsin's a swing state, so really this could go to either party. I'm curious, as you just got to speak with Crowley yourself, what did he say that makes him, the man for the job that made him want to run for this?
Well, he says he's going to be fighting for lowering costs, and we push back on that. One of the things that happened here in Milwaukee County, is that he did have he was able at one point to lower property taxes, but at the same time he endorsed and backed MPS. Now MPS is not part. He doesn't run the Milwaukee Public School District, but he did give his backing to a big referendum that did really increase taxes in the city of Milwaukee. He also signed an add-on to the county sales tax because of a big law that he really helped lobby and get passed in Madison. That law deals with the state funding for municipalities. So it's something called, in Wisconsin, we call shared revenue. So think about all that money that's collected for taxes and things like that. It goes to the state of Wisconsin, and then something called shared revenue. They divvy it up to the local municipalities and local counties, give that money back, give some of that money back. And for many years, people in Milwaukee said that they really weren't getting enough. And in other counties, in other cities, Brookfield, and other places where the leaders said that the shared revenue formula was broken, and County Executive David Crowley really lobbied and helped get that law passed that changed the shared revenue formula. But that law also gave Milwaukee the power to raise its county sales tax, and it also allowed the city to institute the first ever city sales tax in all of Wisconsin. That's in Milwaukee. It's a 2% add-on to the sales tax that was approved because of the shared revenue law that allowed the municipalities to approve it at the local level. So the county boosted its county sales tax, and the city here in Milwaukee also boosted or added and created this all new sales tax. So talking about affordability, talking about keeping costs down, I push back and say, well, you also supported these higher taxes. How do you square that away? How do you square that together? And what do you say to the voters and that might be concerned about the cost of living and the taxes that they're paying? And he said, really was needed. It was a broken formula, and that these local police and fire departments and your local city and counties really needed that money from the state. And he really wants to, he says, help continue to reform the revenue structures in Madison, including more money for public schools. David Crowley ran for Milwaukee County Executive. He won in 2020. It was him versus State Senator Chris Larson. Senator Chris Larson back in 2020 was running for a county executive, more on, I would say, the left, more liberal. And David Crowley won that election in many ways, I think, because of the support in some of the more moderate or even Republican voters, conservative voters that happened to be in Milwaukee. He really appealed to them and came off as more of a moderate. But now in his campaign launch video for governor, he is calling Republicans that controlled the legislature extremists. And he's also criticizing President Donald Trump, he says, for chaos and cruelty. So even though he had this track record of working with Republicans, even though he had a track record of appealing to them to win their vote for county executive here in Milwaukee, now he's critical of Republicans, but he says he wants to be a governor for everybody. So how do you square that all together? You're running for the Democratic primary, so you're going to have to win more of the base. You're going to have to win more of the liberal voters, but at the same time, then after the primary in August of 2026, then you only have a few months to really appeal to the rest of the voters to win the general election. So how are you going to appeal to them when you've criticized the Republican leaders as extremists? That's a question for Crowley we'll get to tonight in our interview with him.
Yeah, certainly a lot to learn from the interview. Jason, I have one last question for you, then I'll let you go because I know you're busy working on your story that's coming up later today. I'm curious, one, obviously no incumbent, as you mentioned, Governor Evers is not seeking re-election. What was kind of the consensus, the thought process from people in Wisconsin about him making that decision not to run again? And then can we expect him to back any of these Democratic candidates? Has he said whether or not he plans to endorse someone?
Yeah, so when he's asked whether he was going to endorse, when we most recently asked him that question, he said he really wanted to, he typically says he doesn't endorse in these Democratic primaries, but he said if he wants to see how the field shapes up, and if there's a particular candidate who he thinks is the best, that is maybe would need his endorsement, then at that point he would consider potentially the idea of an endorsement. But 2 points. One, he wanted to see how the field shaped up, and two is he wanted to do that only if it was sort of needed to help a particular candidate win the primary. So right now he's not endorsing, but it is interesting that his lieutenant governor, he is not endorsing, and he knows that she's already in the race. In Wisconsin, Haley, it's important to remember that it's kind of an arranged marriage, so to speak, for lieutenant governor and governor, because what happens is they run independently in the primaries. So Democrats are able to pick who they want to be governor. Democrats also on the same ballot pick who they want to be lieutenant governor. Same thing with Republicans. They'll pick who they want to be the governor. They'll pick who they want to be the lieutenant governor. And then sort of a forced marriage or arranged marriage, those two will come together for one ticket in the fall when you elect in the general election. It'll be that one ticket of whoever the primary voters picked for that sort of arranged marriage.
Yeah, certainly a lot to learn and see what happens before the primary, 11 months away in August. All right, Jason, we'll let you go. We know you have your story to work on, but thanks so much for giving us the latest scoop there after you talk with Crowley.
Thanks, Haley.
Again, we were just talking with our political kind of reporter there, Jason Calvi, about the latest on the race for Wisconsin's next governor ahead of that primary next August. I just want to pull up those candidates one more time. We have 4 right now. The newest entrance here is David Crowley. Again, he just announced today he's formally running. He is on the Democratic side of this race, as is Sarah Rodriguez, the current lieutenant governor. which, as Jason Calvi was just explaining to us, doesn't necessarily mean that, she didn't run with Governor Evers. It's not like you can expect Governor Evers to just back her because of that. They ran independently of each other and were both elected and given the roles. And then on the right here, we have your two Republican candidates so far, Josh Schoeman and Bill Berrien. So be curious. We'll continue to monitor this, of course, on the Wisconsin Live Desk, on Fox Local, and on FOX6 News, the race to who will be the next governor of Wisconsin, which, as Jason was also mentioning, a swing state. We see it go blue, we see it go red. You never really know what's going to happen until you, the voter, show up at the polls and have your voices heard. So we'll continue to cover that race for you up until, next August is when that primary will be. All right, we are going to take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and then we'll be back in 2 minutes before I hand things over to Kim Murphy. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk this Tuesday afternoon, where it is beautiful weather in Milwaukee. So I'm going to get outside here in just a few minutes, and Kim Murphy's going to come into the Wisconsin Live Desk studio and take over so you can have another hour of live news brought to you here. Exciting day today. It is National Teddy Bear Day. So we are going to start a new segment when I do Wisconsin Live Desk called Question of the Day. So the question of the day, because it's National Teddy Bear Day, is did you grow up with a teddy bear? So I did. I went to Build-A-Bear when I was very young, and I made a bear that I named Tootsie after Tootsie Rolls, which were my favorite candy at the time. She was white and had like a little bit of pink to her fur, and I definitely still have her somewhere. Kept it for when I have a baby someday that they could have Tootsie. So let's bring in our producer and say if Delaney has an answer to our question of the day. Delaney, did you grow up with a teddy bear?
I didn't have a teddy bear, but I had a stuffed bunny.
A stuffed bunny. Did your stuffed bunny have a name?
I named it China.
China?
Yeah, my older brother suggested it.
I love that.
I went with it.
I love that you just, you took your brother, his idea, and you said, let's make it happen. All right, so part of question of the day is a true or false question. So Delaney knows the answer. I do not. The question here, the teddy bear was named after Theodore Roosevelt. Delaney, I'm going to say true.
You're right. It's true.
That's so exciting. How did this come about? Do you know?
It came after he refused to shoot a bear during a hunting trip.
Aww. Okay, I kind of love that. They said, hey, you respected the bear. You didn't, shoot him, so you can have a teddy bear named after you. And now so many of us have teddy bears. I love that. All right, well, that was fun. We'll try and bring question of the day to you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk every now and again, as we also constantly are monitoring feeds and bringing you the very latest news, which is what we're going to do right now. We have a House Oversight Committee that has just begun. This is a hearing on the Better Meals, Fewer Pills, Making Our Children Healthy Again initiative. So I'm going to go ahead, take this for you full, and we will get the sound up for you so you can listen in. And then on the other side of things will be our very own Kim Murphy. She's taken over for you, but we'll listen in to this hearing.
Over 6 years old are obese, a 270% increase since the 1970s. So when I am asked to speak to a classroom of little children, I can't help but noticing that they are clearly much heavier than the children were in the 1970s. American children are diagnosed with prediabetes at a rate double the rate of 20 years ago, 2 decades ago. Rates of depression have nearly doubled since 2007. I think if we asked the children when I was in middle school, or when I was certainly in elementary school, what depression was, they never would have heard the word. Approximately 3 million high school students reported suicidal thoughts in the last year. A study shows that youth in the U.S. are being prescribed psychotropic drugs at a rate significantly higher than our European countries, and I don't know where the numbers are around, the number of kids getting psychotropic drugs in the 60s or 70s when I was a child. But back then, I would never have known it was even one of my classmates. 15% of American boys and 8% of American girls have been diagnosed with attention deficit attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, and prescribed daily stimulant pills as a treatment. Something else that I didn't know was even going on when I was a child, probably because it wasn't going on almost at all. We are literally giving millions of our children amphetamines and other potent stimulants. Meanwhile, the modern American childhood bears little resemblance to the childhoods we ourselves experienced just a few decades ago. According to the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, American children spend an average of 7.5 hours per day looking at screens. No wonder we're coming up to the next bullet point. Numerous studies have found a link between increased screen time and anxiety, depression, obesity, sleep problems, and more. 27% of our youth between the ages of 17 and 24, 77% of our youth between the ages 17 through 24 would not qualify for military service without a waiver due to obesity or other health conditions. Isn't that just shocking? We're going to read that again. 77% of our youth between the ages of 17 and 27 would not qualify for military service without a waiver due to obesity or other health conditions. Isn't that scary? Scary. Children enrolled in Medicaid or their state's children health insurance program are more likely to be diagnosed with a behavioral health disorder. These are often children from single-parent households due to the lower income qualifications for Medicaid. The number of child psychiatrists in the U.S. has grown over 37% in the last 7 years. The question is, did it help? Our children are struggling with their mental and physical health, all the while being over-medicalized by a healthcare system that does not hesitate to prescribe more pills. Did it help? On top of that, too many children are not eating the nutrient-dense foods they need for healthy growth and development. Foods that provide important nutrients to the diet, such as fruits and vegetables, dairy, whole and enriched grains, should be encouraged. Instead, children are increasingly being fed ultra-processed foods such as soda, candy, and chips, the makers of which lavish campaign contributions on politicians. This, in part, is contributing to the childhood obesity epidemic impacting an estimated 14 million children in the U.S. The most recent CDC study on weight gain trends over time found that the average weight in Americans has increased 24 pounds since 1960. I notice that when I speak at my local schools. I mean, I don't say it, you know, do your kids look fat? I don't say it, but I think it. So I'm glad the Trump administration, through HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy and USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins, are working hard to bring attention to and solve this crisis. On May 22nd of this year, the Make America Healthy Again Commission, MAHA, released a 78-page report which covered many of these topics. Well, this report has been needlessly politicized and demonized by some Democrat politicians, I'm sure not my ranking member, and mainstream media pundits. I suspect many have not read it. I want to read a small snippet, and I quote, "The purpose of this report is radical transparency about our current state to spur a conversation about how we can build a world together where, 1, American farmers are put at the center of how we talk about health, and 2, the American healthcare system thrives when disease is prevented and reversed, not just managed in a sick care system," end quote. Sounds like common sense to me that will greatly improve the health and happiness for young children. I'm glad Secretary Kennedy is a disruptive force. Our constituents know that something is deeply wrong with the status quo when it comes to health. Last November, well, we won't make this partisan, but, you know, President Trump, we believe, was given a mandate to improve the health of American children. I mean, people want to.
Live Desk.
Welcome to the second hour. You got a little preview of what we're going to go to next. Durante Matthews is following a potential big change with Ascension Healthcare. He is following this story. It concerns insurance, and a major insurer may be separating from Ascension. Good afternoon, Durante.
Hey there, Kim. Yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head right there. Today we're talking about something that impacts all of us, which is healthcare insurance. So, for one, many people have gotten these emails or these notes or whatever you want to call them from Ascension, which is actually right behind me. So, what's going on is Ascension has been in contract negotiations with United Healthcare for months now. Many people are insured through United Healthcare, and they actually go to Ascension to get their medical needs satisfied. So what's going on is they have until October 1st to reach some sort of agreement on their current contract negotiations, either extending it or coming to an entire new deal. And if they cannot come to a new deal, Ascension essentially says they will be out of network with United Healthcare, which means that if you are insured through United Healthcare come October 1st and they do not come to a deal with Ascension, they'll be out of network. So you'll either have to find a new healthcare provider, a new insurance if you want to stay with United Health, if you want to stay with Ascension, or just pay a lot of money to continue services here. And we all know out-of-pocket health costs really do cost an arm and a leg, you know, at times, no pun intended with that. So yeah, that's essentially what what we'll have for you today. Just what is going on here, how that impacts you, and how both sides essentially have something to lose if they do not come to an agreement by October 1st.
Question for you. How often, do we know how often this happens? Is this kind of routine and we're just now hearing about it as members of the public, or is this something that is out of the ordinary?
Well, it's not really out of the ordinary, you know, contract negotiations between healthcare providers and insurance, that's just a normal thing right now. Coming to United Healthcare and Ascension, that may not be as common, but I do know Ascension has had issues in the past with other insurers. So right now it's just coming down to those who actually have United Healthcare and, you know, what can they do right now?
That's major. Oh, we hope that there is some kind of resolution. Again, the talks are ongoing, and this would probably, the contract you said has to be decided by October. If not, we're talking about next year when this would actually affect people with United Healthcare.
Yeah, actually, that is true. Now, what both sides are kind of saying is Ascension says they want higher rates from United Healthcare because they say, you know, the cost of healthcare is so expensive. You know, hospitals, inflation, everything is going up. So they essentially want more from United Healthcare, where United Healthcare is saying they are already offering something that's really fair to Ascension and that will keep services going for their patients. And you know what kind of happens once insurance companies have to pay more for health coverage. That essentially trickles down to folks like you and I who have to pay more for premiums and have to pay more for visits and things like that. So I spoke with a professor from UW Madison who essentially says the hope is that they both can come to some sort of common ground before that October date.
It is. I mean, when I started work professionally, I had zero co-payments. You know, you could go to the doctor for free. And so, you know, it definitely has gotten more expensive as time goes on. Durante Matthews, thanks for hanging out with us. We'll look forward to your story on Fox 6 News this afternoon. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Kim. I'll see you then.
See you then. And you are watching the Wisconsin Live Desk. Of course, we are talking about a Brew Crew Tuesday, taking a live look there at AmFam Field. And what do we have in store for today? Well, gotta say, I think Fox 6 has been kind of a good luck charm. They've won their games, the Tuesday night games that have been on Fox 6. Tonight, they are in Texas taking on the Rangers, and we'll have complete coverage of that tonight. First off, we have Fox 6 News at 6. Then we have the Fox 6, or the Brewers live pregame, and then the Brewers at the Rangers, followed by a special edition of Fox 6 News, and then 2 hours of the 1% Club. We're going to take a quick break and recombobulate, as they do at the airport. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Happening right now in Washington, the Health Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is releasing information on how to make America healthy again, releasing a report on childhood diseases and a strategy to improve health. So let's take a listen to some of the testimony that is happening right now.
This effort is an important priority in my role as the Trump EPA administrator and as a member of the MAHA Commission, but also as a dad. Protecting human health and the environment while powering America's comeback isn't just about serving Americans today. It's about ensuring future generations inherit clean air, land, water, and the foundation for healthy lives. The American public can count on President Trump, can count on Secretary Kennedy, and can count on those around this table to help MAHA moms and dads across America not just get the answers they deserve, but know that they have a partner in the Trump administration to do something about their concerns. At the Trump EPA, we are accelerating innovative and vetted crop protection products to enhance an American system of agriculture that is already the best in the world. At the same time, EPA is aggressively confronting and addressing the threat of banned pesticides imported or smuggled into the United States from China and elsewhere. These are highly toxic substances that can be a priority in line with the Make America Healthy Commission to protect Americans from this threat. This year, the Trump EPA rejected 6 herbicide products from Sharda CropChem because the company's applications had multiple errors, including wrong calculations, studies that didn't match the actual ingredients, and other data problems. When the EPA asked the company to fix these issues, they didn't respond, so the applications were rejected. We can ensure the safe use of the chemicals EPA regulates, not those illegally imported or otherwise proven to be dangerous. The safe use of chemicals is responsible for transporting, building, feeding, and powering the great American comeback. At the Trump EPA, to ensure more timely reviews, we are increasing scientific capacity in our...
You have been listening to a report that's being given on Make America Healthy Again, a commission on children's health, chronic diseases, and a strategy for improving the outcomes for America's youngest citizens. We're going to take a break, and after that, we're going to join TVV. It's Tuesday, which means he's in Green Bay.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
It's Tuesday and a special week it is. Not only did we have the Packers and a great win against Detroit on on Sunday, we get to see them again on Thursday, 2 games in 1 week. We're going to check in with the one, the only, Tim Van Voren, who's headed to Green Bay. Hey, Tim, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going fine. I'm in Green Bay. Joining you from in Green Bay. We just had the chance to chat with the Packers in the locker room, Micah Parsons, et cetera. Everybody's all fired up about week 1 and hoping it carries over to game 2.
So let's talk about Jordan Love. Everyone, of course, focuses on the quarterback. He looked pretty good game 1.
You're right on it, Kim. I know you're boning up on the football knowledge and the observations this year, and you are hitting it right out of the box here because you're right. He was right on point. He was very precise. I think that's what is going well when the Packers are doing well on offense. If you're asking Jordan Love, what do you do well when you're playing well? It's to be precise. It's to be consistent. And he really was to start the game against the Lions. He had talked to us during the week about not wanting to get behind. That's what had happened in previous divisional matchups. The Packers had to come from behind, particularly against Detroit. They didn't want that to happen this time around, and it didn't because Love was so sharp at the outset.
Let's talk about Micah. When it was first announced that he was traded from the Cowboys to Green Bay, we had a poll question, and one of the choices was, do you think this is a Damian Lillard kind of situation where he's going to get here and not be happy? Not at all. He's embraced us.
He has embraced Green Bay and Packer Nation, and reports are when he realized that his time in Dallas was growing short, there were really 2 teams that he was hoping would trade for him or make a move for him, and they were the Philadelphia Eagles. He is a native of Pennsylvania, and of course they're the Super Bowl champs, and the Green Bay Packers. So it's not, I'm not saying Damian Lillard, couldn't stand Milwaukee or anything like that, but it wasn't his chosen destination for the Bucs. Micah Parsons was interested in coming to the Green Bay Packers. The Packers reached out. They got him. They gave him all the money. He's going to be here. He does seem like he's embraced it. I know he was dining at the Texas Roadhouse last night. I got the word on that, Kim. So he's still got the Texas in him a little bit, but he's learning the Green Bay lifestyle. And talked to him today, just outside the locker room. And he says he's really having fun embracing the mental challenge of learning a new team and a new defense when you just got here, particularly this week on a short week because they played Sunday and they're back out there again on Thursday night.
Let's talk about, as they do with the Oscars, the predictions, what should happen and what will happen Thursday.
What should happen? The Packers should be able to build on their strong performance. They had a few injuries on the offensive line, so maybe we'll see difficulties there, and that could short-circuit an entire offense. But if they are healthy enough or they have enough premium performers out there on the field, we should see a carryover. Romeo Doubs was talking about that today in the locker room. Yeah, they were so prepared. They were so focused for week 1. That should carry over here to week 2, even on a short week. What will happen? I think the Commanders will come in here. They won their first game of the year. I think they think a little bit it's house money. This is a tough trip for them. We talk about the short week for the Packers. The Packers are at home. It's a short week for the Commanders, and they have to travel here. So I think they're going to come in here, throw a bunch of stuff at the wall, see what sticks. Obviously, to play to win, they're a top-level NFC team. But I don't think they're going to be overly conservative. I thought Detroit was conservative on Sunday. I think the Commanders are going to open the books a little bit, let it fly. They've got a quarterback who's multi-talented in Jaden Daniels. And it'll be fun that it's on Fox 6. That's a streaming game, Kim, of course, across the country. A lot of people can't watch it over the air TV, but in Milwaukee, in Green Bay, back in the nation's capital, those local stations have been able to pick it up. So it's on Fox 6. So if you have friends in Madison, they have to watch it on Amazon if they can do that. So, or drive to Milwaukee, watch it on Fox 6. So good one to see on Thursday night.
A lot of crazy stuff as where you can watch games this season. TVV, thanks so much for taking time to talk to us. And you have this new segment, As Seen by TVV.
Yeah, you go to Walgreens, you see that little sign, as seen on TV, that little red sign. Well, we're kind of taking off that, right? As seen by TVV. So we're hoping viewers will participate. That's going to make it more fun. Ask a question, Make an observation, even if you say, you know, I saw some in the third quarter, I have to get it off my chest. Fine, do it. Hit me up at Ask TVV, as seen by TVV, and we'll have it on Fox Local. You can get there by our website. You get there for Fox Local. A lot of ways to get there, but should be kind of fun, and we'll do it all season long, and we can kind of go through the Packers season together.
I love it. Thanks so much. We'll see you later.
Terrific, Kim. Thanks for having me on.
You're watching the Wisconsin Live Desk. Okay, it's a short week for the Packers, you heard, but they're pumped. They're coming off of a win, so they are going to be tired because they do have to travel. It is a short week, but we've got some good vibes headed that way towards Texas, so let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. You're watching the Live Desk. Going to take a quick break. We'll be back after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Always busy in our nation's capital. Let's listen to some of our Congress members, Democratic leaders responding to some of the issues that are happening, blowing up this week in Washington, D.C.
They really don't have that money. Tens of millions of Americans are going to be forced back into the period before the Affordable Care Act, where they'd look at their health care premiums and say, I just can't do it. I can't make my rent or my mortgage, pay my utilities, pay my grocery bills, pay for gas, pay for kids' tuition, pay for my parents, and pay for health care. A lot of you remember that time. And what's going to happen this fall is not a political challenge for Republicans. It is a real challenge for people across the country. Democrats are ready to work with anyone to restore health care for the millions of Americans who are about to get smacked in the face. But that starts with a meeting. It has to start with a meeting. And Leader Thune and Speaker Johnson haven't even asked Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries to sit down and discuss this. It starts with a conversation about how to avoid all this pain for millions of Americans across the country.
Thank you. Okay, questions? Manu.
What do you say to people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez who say that it's time for leaders like you to get behind Zoran Mamdani or risk losing the mayoral race?
We met yesterday. We had a good meeting. We know each other well, and we're going to keep talking. Yes.
May I ask questions from Senator Murray, please, on appropriations?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
On appropriations, Senator Murray, have you had a chance to review the anomalies that have been sent over from the White House? Do you have a sense of what President Trump or OMB wants from the CR? And do you think they're going to be on board with the bipartisan product that you say you want?
So we did get the anomalies today. I have not had a chance to look at them. They just came a few hours ago. That's good progress, depending on what they are. I have not been told what President Trump, Speaker Johnson, or Leader Thune want.
Leader Schumer? Yes. You're next. Yes, you. Go Bills. Who stayed up and watched the whole game? Even though one of my best Buffalo staffers was at the game and left in the third quarter. Serves him right.
I'm sure you saw the situation happening in the Middle East today, the bombing of Doha.
Yes.
The administration's already come out and said that they're concerned about it. Are you concerned about it, and are you ready to define what's happening in Gaza as a genocide?
The bottom line is that we are concerned about the bombing, and we've requested a classified briefing on it. Yes.
Senator Schumer, regarding the labor revisions, that was from March 2024 to March 2025, so a bulk of that was during the Biden administration. Isn't that more of an indictment of the Biden administration than it is for Trump, because he was only in office?
Here's the bottom line. Trump said on day one he'd start making things better, and he started off not in a great place, but he made it even worse. He made it worse with the tariffs. He made it worse with the big, ugly betrayal bill and so many other things that are just wrecking the economy and making businessmen wonder what the heck is going on in this administration. Yes. Go ahead, note this gentleman, Mr. Washington Post.
You are watching Senate Democrats field questions, everything from the New York mayoral race to some of the changes that are coming for health care in this country. Health care is the topic in several corners of D.C. this afternoon. A couple of subcommittee hearings are happening. One, Make America Healthy Again, is a subcommittee that's looking at chronic childhood diseases and how to improve the outcomes. And then there's also testimony that is going on with the House committee. So let me take a break, give you a beauty shot of American Family Field, and we'll be back right after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us on this lovely, lovely afternoon. Let's pop up this. You see Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, part of a dignitary welcome you see there. Members of the armed forces are there. We're going to get some more information on what's happening here, but it's just popped up, so we thought we would just go to it right away. And as we get more information on what is happening here at the Department of Defense, we will bring that to you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. What we are waiting for is a press conference, joint press conference between the Justice Department and the FBI announcing that charges have now been filed in the U.S. District Court in Charlotte, charging a 34-year-old man with a federal crime in connection with a fatal attack of a Ukrainian citizen on the city's light rail system. DeCarlos DeJuan Brown Jr. is 34 years old, is charged with one count of committing an act causing death on a mass transportation system. Irina Zarutska was a young woman living in America, had escaped Ukraine, and was attacked for no reason by this man, allegedly. The FBI says that DeCarlos Brown Jr. is a repeat violent offender with a history of violent crime from murder. And Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, says that the government will seek the maximum penalty for this, and that the penalty being that he never see the light of day. So again, we are expecting officials to update us on the criminal complaint. But what it does say is that on August 22nd, around 9:55, officers with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department responded to a call for service related to an assault that happened on the light rail, the Blue Line, in Charlotte. Callers said that there was a woman who had been stabbed by a man. Responding officers found the victim inside the rail car. The victim, identified as Irina Zarutska, had fatal stab wounds, fatal stab wounds, and a pocket knife and other items were collected from the scene. Investigators did end up using surveillance video that showed the victim entering the light car, sitting down in front of Brown, and approximately 4 minutes later, according to the criminal complaint, Brown pulled a knife from his pocket, unfolded it before striking the victim 3 times from behind. After the attack, according to the complaint, Brown walked away from the victim. Responding officers found him on the light rail platform where he was later arrested. So again, we are waiting for that news conference to begin. We're going to dip back into what is happening in the nation's capital right now. A lot of talk about how to make America's children healthy.
You don't dispute their statistics, right?
I don't have specifics on prices. I'm here to discuss in my capacity as an expert on childhood nutrition, but we do have an entire agency, the Economic Research Service, who I'm sure could provide more information.
I'm just saying you don't dispute the statistics.
I have no awareness of this.
That's better. You don't have an awareness
statistics.
Of it. Dr. Fink, in your testimony, you wrote that HHS priority is to, quote, improve federal nutrition programs for low-income families. But healthy foods are costing more for everybody at this point. And according to CBO, this administration is going to cut SNAP benefits such that at least 300,000 families living with children 14 and older will lose food assistance. You don't dispute that, right, Dr. Fink?
Representative, we, as Dr. Studi shared, we, between HHS and the USDA, are collaborating to take SNAP to the next level. Our goal is to ensure that children have access to wholesome, nutritious food.
And they're losing access, ma'am. They're losing access because your administration is cutting SNAP benefits.
With all due respect, sir, we are challenging states, as Dr. Studi said, to submit waivers so that we do not poison our children with junk food and sugary
This is
soda.
not junk food.
This
is going up 40% in cost, and you're cutting the supports to buy this stuff.
Through the SNAP program, we are offering waivers to states so that they can provide children with wholesome, nutritious foods. And we are really emphasizing that we cannot continue to provide soda and junk food and call that a quote-unquote nutrition program.
Thank you much, Mr. Sessions.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much, and I want to thank the
administration officials who've taken time to be here and are here for the purpose that we are talking about, and that is food security, food safety, and the opportunity for us to make sure that federal funds are used on foods that do not encourage further diminishment of a person's life. I am interested and see that I think it's Dr. Studi, your presentation before us, where you talked about ultra-processed foods, and then you didn't struggle. You just said we're looking for a better definition. What are some examples of ultra-processed foods? Where are these found? Is it something that a family does? Is it taught in schools? What is ultra-processed food?
Ultra-processed foods is really a topic that's grown in discussions, I would say, in the last decade. There's been a lot of research. One of the prime definitions that has been used in research is one that came from Brazil, and it's called NOVA. The way that foods are categorized within that system and similar systems is the level of processing that they undergo, whether they have additives, flavorings, things like that, colorings, as well as there are considerations around.
So right now you have dueling committees that are taking testimony. In the House, on the left, you have experts talking about food and additives into school lunches and cuts to SNAP programs that feed children in underserved communities. And then on the right, you have Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy testifying. So we're going to jump over to that. This is a committee on Make America Healthy Again. So let's listen in to what the Secretary is saying.
At that at NIH. So we are doing studies now. We're initiating studies to look at the correlation and the connection, potential connection between over-medicating our kids and this violence and these other possible co-founders as well. Your other question, you want to answer later?
EPA is committed to using the best available science, and you heard that from a number of our speakers today, the importance of seeking out the gold standard of science. As I covered during my remarks, we are concerned from an enforcement standpoint, the use of illegal pesticides, the importing of pesticides into the country, and working with other partner agencies to crack down on that. You heard Mr. Kratsios talking about AI, and I'm grateful for his leadership on that front. We're incorporating important IT upgrades and AI upgrades inside the chemical office. We inherited a backlog in January of 14,000 pesticide reviews. That was the backlog. 500 in the new chemical reviews. One of the needs on top of updating the IT is also to add scientists to the chemicals office, which we are doing. We are increasing the bandwidth and capacity inside of that office. I also touched on my remarks with regards to precision agriculture. Just about a week and a half ago, I was at San Diego State University, where they were showing off their first in the nation precision agriculture program, which is now being replicated at universities elsewhere around the country, training up that next generation of farmers. It's very important, not just economically, but also for health, safety, environmental reasons, for these farmers to be able to utilize these new technologies, which are expensive. But the biggest hurdle, the biggest obstacle that is being encountered is just the need for more advocacy and education of the infrastructure that is out there, the innovations that are out there. But again, it's important for us to follow the best available science, to pursue that gold standard science, and that's a commitment that we often met about here. The one other point I would mention too is what I noticed in my conversations with farmers is a strong desire to pursue any opportunity to improve health for our children, to improve access to a healthier food supply. There's a lot of pride in the product that these farmers are producing and supplying to America's families. But the argument that I've heard at farms all across this country is that they proudly consider themselves to play a very key tip of the spear role in feeding.
The topic this afternoon is health, the health of our children. And on the left, you continue to hear testimony from the Make America Healthy Again Commission meeting, where commission members will have released their Make Our Children Healthy Again strategy. And then on the right, you are, let's say, on the right, you're hearing from the Make America Healthy Again Commission that's releasing a report on a strategy on how to make that happen. Then on the left is a House Oversight Government Reform Subcommittee on better meals, fewer pills, making our children healthy again. So 2 discussions this afternoon focused on the health of our children. You are hearing from differing members of the health community on what exactly that means, what that looks like, but just kind of clarifying as you're hearing the different testimony. These are 2 separate hearings that are going on, but the focus, one overall on how to make America's children healthier again, that is on the right, and then on the left, how to improve the meals that our children consume and how to perhaps have them take fewer pills if the assumption is that they take a lot of pills. So let's listen.
And the right kind of calories. And for those children, programs like SNAP and TFAP, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, which supports, among other things, the ability for food banks and schools to buy fresh produce from local farmers, and school lunch and breakfast programs, they're a lifeline. They're meaningful nutrition for kids so they don't fall asleep in class, so that they can learn, so that they can grow and be healthy. And as the USDA's Food and Nutrition Services notes on its own website, there are clear associations between food insecurity and poor health, links to chronic disease and diabetes and cancer. Dr. Studi, what does USDA's research say about the impact of poor nutrition on children's health and well-being?
As noted, poor nutrition has immediate impacts on health. We have evidence around performance in school, but now as we both noted in our remarks, it's extremely concerning that we have such a high prevalence of overweight and obesity, as well as something that's been more recently seen in the literature is that these various factors, poor diet being one of them, low physical activity, and other factors, have resulted in about 1 in 3 adolescents having prediabetes. That statistic, I think, is extremely alarming. So, yes, we do.
What are the long-term effects of physical health, academic performance of poor nutrition? So you mentioned immediate results, but long-term, what do we see from these kids who don't have healthy food to eat?
It sets a stage for poor health throughout the lifespan. So it's immediate impacts, but also impacts later in life.
Mm-hmm. The SNAP cuts included in President Trump's big, ugly bill could result in as many as 9 billion fewer meals for families, for children. The SNAP cuts are making a impact impact on vulnerable populations, gutting food assistance. Based on what you've just shared with us, I think it's fair to say that H.R. 1, the cuts in that bill will have a detrimental impact on children, not just right now in the immediate, but for years to come. Long-term chronic health impacts that will plague our society. Dr. Fink, since the Big Ugly Bill passed, community members I've met with have warned that fewer Americans qualifying for SNAP and Medicaid will lead to fewer schools offering universal free lunches in low-income areas, reducing children's access to essential nutrition. As a pediatrician, is it important for children to have regular access to nutritious food?
Thank you, Congresswoman, for that question. As an endocrinologist and as a pediatrician, I can definitely say that having good, healthy nutrition is the cornerstone of developing the best health you have for your future.
Thank you.
And that is why.
Thank you, Dr. Fink. So it's safe to say that losing access to consistent and nutritious meals would be harmful to a child's health?
Well, what I would like to say is we're actually looking to totally reform these programs because right now, the N in SNAP stands for nutrition.
But Dr. Fink, what we're seeing is a cut of funding available for nutritious meals for kids in schools, meals that are often the only available nutritious meal for children from some low-income families. Do you see increased anxiety, depression, or behavioral issues in children struggling with hunger?
Food most definitely impacts all aspects of health, and that is why, in collaboration.
Two things going on right now related to kids' health. Let's listen to the MAHA Commission and Secretary of Health, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
And yet, throwing all that money at the agencies was doing nothing. Our health declined precipitously. And so what we're doing is streamlining the agency and consolidating it so everybody knows what their job is and that they're working together in unison. And all the disparate groups that were studying little different silos of the health crisis are now consolidated, and they have a clear outcome in mind, which is to end chronic disease in our children. And it's measurable. And so that's what the reorg is about.
Hi, thank you so much
Get
for
their
hosting
meals,
this.
healthy
Amanda
meals
Seitz
at
with
school.
The Associated Press. Secretary Kennedy, the report lays out some changes for vaccine injuries and how those will be investigated. Can you expand more on how that process will look differently than it already does, since the government does investigate vaccine injuries currently?
Yeah, I mean, there has been no investigation of vaccine injuries in the past. The knee-jerk reflexive reaction to the by the agencies toward people who said that they had vaccine injuries, or to doctors who said my patient was injured, was denial that this isn't happening. And every medication has side effects, and they cause injuries that are rare. The people who are injured deserve the same kind of care and consideration that we give to anybody who's injured in this country. And, we have thousands of reports to VAERS, to the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, of people who say that they got a vaccine injury. One of the things we've learned in our investigation is that about 80% of the people who contact the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, because they've made it so difficult register to report a vaccine injury, that they give up before the vaccine injury, before reporting it. Doctors are discouraged from reporting it. They're not compensated. It takes them about 30 minutes on average to report an injury, and they're not compensated for it. And they also have disincentives from reporting it. We're changing the system. We're going to make sure that there's a system. Right now, the CDC's own study of their only surveillance system, their study of it in 2010 found that it collected fewer than 1% of vaccine injuries. It's collected over 99% of vaccine injuries.
You're listening to the Health Secretary, and just some information as he is making assertions that vaccines cause injuries. There is a reporting system. It's called the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. it's a surveillance system that has been in effect for a long time. And regardless of whether a link to a vaccine is proven, it is a very sensitive system. So the large numbers of reports do not indicate a high number of confirmed vaccine injuries. In 2019, this reporting, VAERS, V-A-E-R-S, received about 48,000 reports, and of those, 85 to 90% described mild side effects. So when we talk about vaccine injury, what we're talking about needs further explanation, definition of what we're talking about. But we do know that between 2006 through the end of 2022, approximately 2.5 billion vaccine doses were administered in the U.S. And over that time, thousands of cases were awarded compensation for adverse reactions. But that is still an extremely low number relative to the doses that were given. So adverse events are rare, and they are already studied. There is another situation agency that also studies when something happens. It could be a shoulder injury related to how the vaccine was administered. And so those are some examples of serious adverse events. An allergic reaction, myocarditis, Guillain-Barré syndrome are some in very, very rare cases with the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19. So there have been reports and there have been investigations, but again, we're talking from the span of 2006 through 2022, 2.5 billion vaccine doses were administered. Thousands of those reported some sort of adverse reaction.
Reports in the vaccine adverse event reporting system and in the scientific literature, and they will be reviewing vaccine recommendations. So, that is something, there's a panel of experts. It's going to meet again, I think, on September 18th, and they're going to do a real gold standard scientific review. Do I agree what? I agree with that.
Thank you all.
And the commission seems to have concluded, ending there on talking about vaccines, which has really, the Secretary's recommendations, thrown the medical community really in disarray. Differing recommendations, limiting who can get vaccines or who should get vaccines, making that very limited, healthy children not included in who should get vaccines, which is different from what we've experienced the last 5 years of COVID-19. So now we're going to go over to that House committee that is also taking a look at child health and nutrition.
Of misinformation. The consequences of these actions are real and alarming, and the health of the American people, especially our children, face significant risk. One of the most pressing threats is the growing anti-vaccine rhetoric that undermines decades of scientific consensus and life-saving health policy. Vaccines have long been one of the most effective tools in preventing disease. Currently, the CDC recommends over 15 childhood vaccines to protect against deadly illnesses.
And that it's a good place for us to dip out of what is happening coming into our feeds there. Again, a lot of information related to children's health. And let's end it on a non-political note. The Brewers are playing tonight. They're going to be in Texas, Arlington, Texas. Pitch 7:05. It's going to be hot down here, 86 degrees. Go Brewers. You can watch that game right here on Fox 6 because it's a Brew Crew Tuesday. So here is the rundown. Again, they are playing tonight, 7:05, And you can watch the news, 6 o'clock, 6:30, the live pregame, 7 o'clock, Brewers at Rangers, and then a special edition of Fox 6 News, and then the 1% Club. Have a fabulous day. I'll try to do the same.